hand just in case they might play. Talking down about me, ooh, make it feel disgusting. Dreadlock inside the well, life can get tangled. Mike the money. Mike the money. Mike the money. I'm making money, Mike the.
You're now tuned in to the Mic'd Up Money Radio Show, where faith meets finance and real talk fuels your comeback. This isn't hype, it's healing. This isn't theory, it's transformation. If you're building a brand, a vision, or trying to get back on your feet, this show is your reset button. Welcome to the table where entrepreneurs talk money with clarity, courage, and conviction. Let's get mic'd up.
This podcast or broadcast is for informational purposes only and should not be considered legal, health, tax, or professional advice. Always consult a licensed professional for specific advice related to your situation. Thank you. This is Ephraim Simmons, the profitability expert for Mic'd Up Money. Today's episode, we're going to be talking about the math ain't mathing. Why your side hustle sounds good, but pays bad. We're going to start by ranking the worst side hustles. The number one worst side hustle is being a gig driving. Uber, DoorDash, Instacart. People say, I don't understand why I make so much money so fast, but we explain why that's a bad plan. The next one is the inventory-based multi-level marketing companies. We'll talk about those. Then we'll talk about the house flipping when you use your own money. A lot of people say, I don't want to use other people's money. It's expensive. But we explain why you should use other people's money. Then the other thing is the small scale catering, plate sales. People think they're making money, but again, we explain why you're not making money. Then we talk about low end reselling, such as a flea market and thrift flips. We'll talk about why that's not good. Then we talk about cheap photography or creative work when the person really doesn't charge a lot of money for what they're doing. We're going to talk about basic service hustles, as far as cleaning, pressure washing, but it's done wrong. We'll talk about that too. Homemade crafts, Etsy, when you are selling too low to make a profit. We'll talk about day training when it's untrained and undisciplined. We'll talk about that, why that's a bad side hustle. And we talk about content creation when you have no strategy. So those are top 10 hustles that don't pay well, but let's get started. Let me say something that may bother you. Some of you are not running the business. You're running well-organized struggles. You got motivation. You have consistency, you have hustle. When you run the actual numbers, the math ain't mathing. Today, I'm going to show you why revenue is lying to you, why some of the most popular hustles don't actually pay, and why you can be great at selling and still be stuck in a losing model. Let's get started. Revenue versus true profit. You didn't make money, you received it. You're not in a business, you're in an activity. Revenue is ego, profit is survival. You ran out of people, that's why it stopped. You built a treadmill, not a business. Great selling can't fix bad math. If the math needs motivation, it's broken. Let's not sugarcoat this thing. Most side hustles fail for one of three reasons: low margins, high hidden costs, or no scalability. Below is a straight business consultant level breakdown of the worst side hustles based on real economic, not hype. When we talk about gig driving, Uber, DoorDash, Instacart, I hear people talk about it because it's fast cash and it's flexible. But this is why it's a bad side hustle. The mileage destroys your vehicle. You may not see it up front, but once the maintenance and repair get to you, you'll find out you really didn't make money. The real cost is about 65 to 75 cents per mile. So most of the time when I do taxes and I put standard mileage on what people made, you find out they're losing money. They ain't make what they thought they made. Sometimes the tips will give them over, but it's not what it appears to be. And then the dead time, you waiting, you driving back, and it kills your hourly rate. The real thing is most people make about $8 to $15 after real cost. And when you think about it, that's really not real money. You're not earning money. You're liquidating your car, basically with those side hustles. Before you decide you're going Uber, DoorDash, or Instacart, look at what it's really doing to your car. The resale value goes down. The chance of having an accident goes up. If you have the wrong insurance, they will not pay. Then you just sitting around, driving around. Yes, they give you some pay for that. But then how much are you really making per hour? That's the deal. And then inventory-based multi-level marketing company. They say you own your own business and it can build residual income. But the thing about it is you buy this inventory every month and you buy it upfront. And most inventory companies, they keep changing the product. So you have to continue to buy the inventory. They keep discontinuing things so that the inventory you have to replace it. All the unsold inventory are sunk costs that you have to deal with. So, you just can't order what you need. You have to keep ordering enough so that you can get it at a discount so it can be profitable to you. But at the same time, the way they sell it, the only person that's really making money is the inventory company. And guess who is the primary customer? You are. You don't have a product that you can just sell. You are the demand for the product. And then you have to convince other people to take this inventory off your hands. And that's what the real problem is. And after you get through with your one market, that's your friends and family, when that dries up, businesses also fail. Because few people have the guts to go up to people they do not know and sell them a product they may not need. And that is the main problem right there with multi-level marketing. And then let's go into house flipping. A lot of people think that if they use their own money, they would save and make more money. But the problem is when you watch people flipping houses on TV, they're not investing their own money. They're using other people's money. Why do they use other people's money? Because it doesn't tie up their own money. And then once they walk away with a so-called profit, it is a profit. It's not their money. Because if you continue to have to reinvest your own money to flip a house, you're just recycling money. You're not making money. And I don't understand why people don't see that concept. They say, I made $35,000 on this flip. I say, oh, where's the money? Oh, I had to put in another project. Well, you didn't make $35,000. And the thing I found out is it goes on and on until they get a crap house with foundational problems or structural problems that they did not foresee. And they have to spend more money than they thought they had to. And so now they're in a situation where they have lost whatever profit they say they have built up. They lost it on a bad house. But a lot of people don't understand because it ties up your capital. The risk is on pretty much on you if you're using your own money. And if you're not really putting the money in the bank, it's a mediocre way of using your money. Because even if I left my money in the bank and they gave me 4 or 5%, that's better sometimes than what other people have. Because once they are actually calculated, your return on your investment is zero because you keep recycling your own capital. You didn't make money, you just parked it. Talk about small scale catering or play sale. It looks good because it's high demand, you get cash flow, but it fails because you don't look at food costs, you don't look at waste, you don't understand it's time intensive, and you underpricing kills margin. So you have high effort and low margin grind. You're feeding people, but starving your margin. I talked to a friend that does cooking, and I'm saying like, if you are putting 5 hours in, 10 hours in, and you're making $100 and then you splitting it several ways, you're really not making any money. The way I like to look at it is when you work on a job, I like to think if you're an entrepreneur, you can make at least 2 to 3 times of what they're paying you on the regulars. It sounds like you're making money. You buy low and sell high. You have to think about the time to source, list, and sell the product, the small margins per item, and the inventory sits. I know this one gentleman used to be a former tax client. His wife does this low-end resale. She has storage rooms full of product that she's supposed to be selling. She had a house full of products that she's supposed to be selling. But that's a lot of money tied into inventory. But then if you look at the storage fees that she's paying every month to store stuff that she's supposed to be selling, it's not profitable. And a lot of times when people do this low-end thing, it feels like they're making small wins and they're making money, but you're not making any money. You don't have a business. You just have a pile of stuff. You're a hoarder. You know, if you're running a regular inventory business, things are supposed to turn over or be sold 30 days or less. Why do you have storage unit of stuff? If your stuff is not selling 30 days or less, you don't have a business. You have a hoarding alliance or something because it's not a business. It's a hoarding nonprofit or something because you're not making a profit. And then chief photography or creative work. You're undervaluing your time. You're eating hours. Your editing hours are not counted and your equipment cost is ignored. My granddaughter, I'm teaching her how to be an entrepreneur. And she asked me about a painting that she was doing for someone. And I told her, when she gave me her original price, I said, that's too low. I said, how many hours did you put into it? How much does your canvas cost? How much does your paint cost? How much did it take time to go get that stuff? And then she came back with a different price and she was satisfied with it. But talent is a premium and your pricing is not. Sometimes people just underprice what they're doing. They feel good because they walk away with a couple of dollars, but the only thing you cannot replace is time, and your time should be priceless. So you need to just look at that when you are trying to look at what you're trying to do. And then basic service hustles like cleaning, pressure washing, but it's done wrong because there's no systems, no pricing strategy, and the owner does all labor. You build a job, not a business. If you stop working, the money stops. So you really don't have a side hustle. you have something that you do to occupy your time. And the problem with these side hustles is always should be looking at something you can leverage. No, can I do this thing faster? Can I use better products, the job done fast? How do I price it? Do I price it by the time? Do I price it by the square feet? Well, now, how do I price this thing? A lot of times people just don't know. And that's their biggest problem. And then the handmade crafts, the Etsy, the low price point. You have creative freedom, but the time it costs you per item is too high. And the customers are price sensitive. And then you got shipping and platform fees. So really you're underpaid for skilled work and you're selling art at labor wages. Otherwise, what's happening is you are making a product and the platform may make more money than you do because there's no time invested with them. There's no supplies vested in them, but they're getting a percentage of what you make and they're getting a percentage of your sales. And so therefore you're doing all the work. And they may be benefiting on the most free money. And then another thing about day trading, when you're untraded, undisciplined, they say it sounds good because it's fast money. But I talked to someone who does day trading. The thing I had to get him to understand is unless you're highly disciplined, you're really not making money day trading because it's high risk and you have to make an emotional decision. Is $50 enough? Is $100 enough? Is $1,000 enough? And can you walk away when you think you may make more money? You have no edge because things can be manipulated so that they can make money and you don't make money. When you go in and you think you're making money, they can turn that switch on you. Instead of being up $1,000, now you're down $3,000 because you stayed in too long and you waited too much. And so therefore, I tell them, if you're going to be a day trader, you have to be highly disciplined. You have to have a strategy and you have to have a revenue goal. And it's just like gambling. How many people can walk away from when you're up? If I put 10 cents into the machine and it gives me $100, can I walk away? Most people say they can, but statistically, a lot of people cannot. And that's why the casino has all the lights and all the free food because you're paying for it because you cannot walk away. In day trading, you have to be a highly disciplined person. You have to have a strategy and you have to have some tools in place because stocks just don't go up because you want them to go up. They go up because of fundamentals. They go up because of trade news. They go up for different reasons. And then they also go down for different reasons. And sometimes with stock trading, there's no rhyme or reason why they're up and why they go down. Sometimes they can have a good profit report and they go down because in the process of doing that, the owner, the manager, the president could have said something that someone didn't like. And now the stock is trading at a loss, even though they just made a major profit. So you got to know when you're trading or when you're gambling with confidence. A lot of times people are just not built to do day trading. And before you invest a lot of money, because I've seen people lose thousands of dollars trying to day trade, especially if they're on margin and they do a margin call on them, especially when the market goes down. So it's not a nice, pretty thing to do. You really have to know what you're doing and you really have to be built for that type of activity. And then content creation. A lot of times people think that content creation is easy. You know, we've been doing mic'd up money for over a year and to get monetized is not an easy task because you have to have a plan to get monetized and you got to work that plan. You got to have a niche clarity. You got to be special. A lot of times people are making money just copying what other people are doing. They're stopping that. They got new policies that, you know, you just can't copy someone's work and just put your face on it and get paid. They doing that. And then you got to be consistent. I have to do a show every week. So by the time I put one show in the can, I have to be working on the next show. I have to have a new content idea. And then you got to understand the insights that they give you and what makes your content special and what you need to do. So you got lots of content, but you have no cash. And that's what they really go on because, you know, if they can get a lot of people or millions of people making content for free, you fill their space up with content, but they're not paying for most of it. And then sometimes they change the rules. And so what you used to get paid off of, you can't get paid off anymore. So, you know, you got to really understand views don't pay, but a strategy with this content creation does. But the thing that people really ignore their time, they ignore effort, they ignore depreciation. They think that the car is going to stay in the same condition that they put it in. The equipment is going to stay in the same condition they bought it at. Things depreciate. Things get old. Things have to be replaced. All that has to be in your pricing because you have to be the one to pay for it. And then they don't scale. More work equals more money. No leverage. I created a multi-level marketing thing because I couldn't scale it. To go to the next level, I had to do things that I wasn't prepared to do. I was in this particular multi-level marketing thing because Robert Kiyosaki said with Rich Dad Poor Dad, do one so you can get used to people telling you no. So I did. But I found out that a lot of women do not know how to put on makeup. And I wasn't prepared to learn how to put on on makeup. I didn't go to school and go get a degree to put on makeup. So I had to leave that alone. And so some things you can't scale. And then they depend on you too much. You have no systems, no automation, no delegation. When you have that, you really do not have a business. Yes, have a part-time income. They create fake profit because the revenue looks good, but the profit is weak. If you're in the inventory business and you made $100, but you got $1,000 worth of inventory on the shelf, you have not made any money. You still have $1,000 you have to deal with. And that's what a lot of people don't deal with. And then sometimes I have to look at the highest and best use of my money. If I can just put it in the bank and make 4 to 5%, and I can try to do a side hustle, and now I got money tied up. And when I do sell it, I still have money tied up. And then when I do sell it, I still have money tied up. And then when I do sell it, I still have money tied up. And then it gets to the point where the money's tied up, I might have to discount. And then I might have to get rid of it alone. It's fake profit. You have to look at that. If you can't stop working, it's not a business. If the profit isn't clear, it's not real. If the math needs motivation, it's already broken. And one of the things about these inventory companies and multi-level marketing is I learned early on when I was in school. I would go to the dollar store, buy candy bars, and put the candy bars on my desk when I was a student. And I used to sell those candy bars for 50 cents a piece or $1 a piece. And I walked away with a clear profit. And I had no inventory left because I sold out. That's how it should really be. But if I have to work hard to sell your product, if I have to go to a sales meeting to get the motivation to sell your product, if I got to get pumped up and hyped up and then get to making promises of this product to sell it, then maybe I got the wrong business model because things should not be that hard to sell. I learned with those candy bars. If it does not sell itself, then I'm doing something wrong. But the better question to ask is, before you start your side hustle, does the model you're using give you real margin? Does it give you leverage? And is it scalable income? And then the thing you have to understand is it has to be tested. We have a tool to help you to understand, does it work? But we're going to ask you 5 questions. First question we're going to ask you is the reality model. How much came in last month? Now answer this. How much of that did you keep? If those numbers are far apart, you don't have a profit, you have leakage. Question number 2, how many hours did you work? Now divide your profit by those hours. If the number is under $25 an hour, you build a job with extra stress. Question number 3, did you include your gas, your wear and tear, your time, and your risk? If you didn't count it, it's still counted against you. Question number 4, the dependency test. If you stop working for 30 days, does the money stop? If your answer is yes, you don't own a business, you own a responsibility. Question number 5, the demand test. Do customers come to you or do you chase them? If you have to chase demand, the value isn't strong enough yet. So let me just make this simple. If you have to work constantly, chase customers, and guess your profit, the math ain't mathing. Let me break down multi-level marketing so people understand it with old school song. There are 3 songs why multi-level marketing math ain't mathing. The first song is an old song, but some people may remember it. It's called I'm Gonna Make You Love Me. And with the multi-level marketing, it's a 4-sale model. It starts with family, friends, and coworkers, and then when they run out, the business runs out. Revenue isn't marketing, profit is reality. When the business runs out, that's where your dreams go to die. If your business depends on your network, your income has a ceiling, and that's why it does not work. Song number 2, I Was Made to Love You. You're like a hamster wheel model. You're talented, you can sell, but it takes all your time. You reinvest everything, and you have to keep pushing. You didn't build a business, you built a treadmill. But here's the problem. If you stop working for 30 days, what happens? You have something that's dependent on your effort. I Was Made to Love You model is sometimes you're dependent on one customer. And if you lose that one customer, you lose your entire business. And so that's why that model does not work. And song number 3 is Love Me Over and Over Again. That's the best sell model because you're actually doing good selling because you identify pain, you position a solution, you use emotion, and you use FOMO. But this is where the pitch finally gets strong, but it's strong enough that you don't have to chase. But here's the problem. Great selling does not fix bad math. And that you got to understand about multi-level marketing is if the framework is made so other people make money and you do not make money, then you in a bad sales model. If I went and sold a car, every car I sell, I make a profit off of that car. But in multi-level marketing, in this inventory base, I have to keep reinvesting in inventory. And I know what I grossed, but I'm not looking at what I had to keep in inventory and what I had to buy in inventory and what I still have on my shelf. And that's the big problem. You're in a bad sales model. You'd be better off selling something like a car because once you sell that car, you made that money. And if you sell enough cars, you made a lot of money. And And that's not your inventory. That's someone else's inventory. You're using your sales skills to make yourself money. But when you have to go in and do other stuff to make your money, you're in a bad model and you need to get out of it. When I say I'm going to make you love me, Dionne Warwick sung that song. Dana Ross and the Temptations sung it. And then when I talk about I was made to love you, that's Stevie Wonder. And it's known for the best version of the song. And Love Me Over and Over Again, that Switch. So you might want to look at those songs and listen to them. And then you can understand why I use those as a model so that people can understand if they're making money and why they're making money. But let's get to the solution to a lot of what people are looking for. Because I told you what's not working. Let me tell you some things that may help you to make your math work. If profit isn't clear, it's not real. You don't have a hustle problem, you have a model problem. If the math needs motivation, it's broken. First of all, you need to count everything. If it costs you, it counts. The next thing you have to do is always price your time. If you're under $25 an hour, you're underpaid. The next thing you have to do is use leverage. Money, systems, people, not just effort. Then you got to validate demand. If you have to chase it, it's weak. And number 5, you have to fall in love with numbers, not the hustle. Now, for us to make this thing work, we have some tools that we are giving to you for free. Once you get the tools, we need you to do something else. We need you to come back to this episode and say one thing. If you are working and your math is mathing, put solid in the comment section. If you're not, just put you exposed. Stop asking, does this feel like it's working? And start asking, does the math prove it's working? Next thing we need to say is, Mic'd Up Money doesn't hype hustle. We make them pass the test. Either your math is mathing or your math is not mathing. But one thing I need to say is a lot of y'all are listening to the content. A lot of y'all are looking at the reels, but you're not subscribing to the channel. And we really need you to subscribe to this channel so that we can validate what we're doing here with Mic'd Up Money. Just hitting the subscribe button or just giving us a like or giving us a comment helps us a whole lot with our algorithms, and it helps us to get this content out. It helps us to help entrepreneurs more, but it also helps us to justify why we are doing what we're doing. The whole purpose of this program is really not for us to get paid. It's for us to make an impact on business in general. We want people to understand who are in business because this is real money talk. And we want to make sure that people understand that, what Mic'd Up Money stands for. We want people to make money. We want people to have money. We want people to employ people. We want people to be able to have business as a viable way to realize their dream of financial freedom. And we want you to stay mic'd up. We understand that when you go to school, they don't teach business like they need to. But we want you to understand that when you're at Mic'd Up Money, if you just subscribe, you just like, you just give us comments and show us some love, you will help us to get this platform out to the masses. You will help us to reach our revenue goals. You will help us to reach what we need from you, because we're not doing clickbait so that you can just click us and, feel good about something we've done. We don't want to deceive you and say, hey, we're going to give you this free training. And the only thing we're trying to do is get comments and likes and things like that. We want you to have real money success. We want you to have real profits in the bank. We want you to get a real return on your money. But with this episode, we want you to understand that you're not in business. You're in an activity if your money is not math. Revenue is ego. Profit is survival if the math is not math. Great selling can't fix bad math. If you're in a bad business model, regardless of what you do, it's going to be bad math because it's not going to math. And if the math needs motivation, it's broken. You can't go to too many motivational places and platforms to sell something that won't sell unless you sell it. And if I got to sell it real hard, what are you doing there? I need to sell things that sell itself. I need to just tell people about the benefits of it, and it needs to sell itself. If I got to push it, if I got to deceive people, if I got to do so much stuff to make it sell, then it's not a good product. Not sugarcoat this whole thing. Most of side hustles fail for one of these 3 reasons. You have low margin, you have high hidden costs, and it's not scalable. So we're going to give you the straight business behind it. When your math doesn't math, you need to reconsider what you're doing, and you need to lose that zero and get you a hero. And then same thing about service business. It seems like you should have like a win-win situation when you're selling your service. Hey, I'm selling my service for $25 an hour. Hey, that sounds good, but you have to look at the lost hours. Sometimes it would take you to make that $25 an hour. You have to think about things like the lost inputs like driving time, rep time, after hour actions before you be able to deliver what you're trying to deliver. Then, if I'm delivering a service, I got insurance, I got subscriptions, I got internet, I have a lot of other stuff that I have to consider. consider come up with this service rate. So it may not mean that I'm making money. Strategically, everything that you do should make you money. And that's how the maths. And a lot of times people just don't get it. They just don't get how to make money work for themselves. And a lot of times when people design a business, they design a business around themselves and not around the customer and how the customer wants to do things. A lot of times you have to think this through. If the math is not mathing, get expert help. You can contact us here at Mike the Money, or you can schedule a consultation with one of our business experts. We'd be glad to look at this and give you a customized solution for what you're doing. But don't be out here alone thinking that you have to do all of this alone. If the math is not mathing, get help. Get help right now and get help from us if you can. Schedule an appointment, schedule a consultation. We'd be glad to get you back right. Again, this is Ephraim from Mike the Money. Again, we want you to get this free tool. Whatever you do, make sure you stay mic'd up and get the right information from the right people that's going to tell you the right thing.
That's a wrap for this week on Mic'd Up Money. Don't forget to grab your free tools at micdupmoney.com. Follow us at Mic'd Up Money on all social platforms and keep taking your next right money move. Until next time, stay reset, stay ready, and stay mic'd up.
Mike the Money, let's go.